Aglaya, said Mrs. Epanchin, remember, Pafnuti, or better write it down, because I always forget. However, I thought it would be more interesting. Where is this signature? I think it's still in the general's office, on the desk. Send at once and fetch it. I could just as well write it again for you, if you like. Of course, Maman, said Alexandra, and now we'd better have lunch, we're hungry. Well, so, Mrs. Epanchin decided. Come, Prince, are you very hungry? Yes, at the moment I'm very hungry and I thank you very much. It's very good that you're polite, and I note that you're not at all such an odd man as we were told. Come. Sit down here, across from me, she bustled about, getting the prince seated. When they came to the dining room, I want to look at you. Alexandra, Adelida, offer the prince something. Isn't it true that he's not all that sick? Maybe the napkin isn't necessary. Do they tie a napkin around your neck when you eat, Prince? Before, when I was about 7, I think they did, but now I usually put my napkin on my knees when I eat. So you should. And your fits? Fits? The prince was slightly surprised. I have fits rather rarely now. Though, I don't know, they say the climate here will be bad for me. He speaks well, Mrs. Epanchin observed, turning to her daughters and continuing to nod her head after each word the prince said. I didn't even expect it. So it was all nonsense and lies, as usual. Eat, Prince, and go on with your story. Where were you born and brought up? I want to know everything, you interest me exceedingly. The prince thanked her and, eating with great appetite, again began to tell everything he had already told more than once that morning. Mrs. Epanchin was becoming more and more pleased. The girls also listened rather attentively. They discussed families. The prince turned out to know his genealogy rather well, but hard as they searched, they could find almost no connection between him and Mrs. Epanchin. There might have been some distant relation between their grandmothers and grandfathers. Mrs. Epanchin especially liked this dry subject, since she hardly ever had the chance to talk about her genealogy, despite all her wishes, so that she even got up from the table in an excited state of mind. Let's all go to our gathering room, she said, and have coffee served there. We have this common room here, she said to the prince, leading him out. It's simply my small drawing room, where we gather when we're by ourselves, and each of us does her own thing. Alexandra, this one, my eldest daughter, plays the piano, or reads, or sews. Adelida paints landscapes and portraits, and never can finish anything, and Aglaya sits and does nothing. I'm also hopeless at handwork, nothing comes out right. Well, here we are, sit down there, Prince, by the fireplace, and tell us something. I want to know how you tell a story. I want to make completely sure, so that when I see old Princess Belikonsky, I can tell her all about you. I want them all to become interested in you, too. Well, speak then. But, Maman, it's very strange to tell anything that way, observed Adelida, who meanwhile had straightened her easel, taken her brushes and palette, and started working on a landscape begun long ago, copied from a print. Alexandra and Aglaya sat down together on a small sofa, folded their arms, and prepared to listen to the conversation. The prince noticed that special attention was turned on him from all sides. I wouldn't tell anything, if I were ordered to like that, observed Aglaya. Why? What's so strange about it? Why shouldn't he tell a story? He has a tongue. I want to see if he knows how to speak. Well, about anything. Tell me how you liked Switzerland, your first impressions. You'll see, he's going to begin now, and begin beautifully. The impression was a strong one, the prince began. There, the impatient Lizaveta Prokofyevna picked up, turning to her daughters, he's begun. Give him a chance to speak at least, Maman. Alexandra stopped her. This prince may be a great rogue and not an idiot at all, she whispered to Aglaya. He surely is, I saw it long ago, answered Aglaya. And it's mean of him to play a role. What does he want to gain by it? The first impression was a very strong one, the prince repeated. When they brought me from Russia, through various German towns, I only looked on silently and, I remember, I didn't even ask about anything.